The gun was heavier than Lola-chan expected. Her mother's blood was still drying on her hands when she pushed through the doors of the Black Tiger Syndicate's headquarters. The weapon trembling in her 10-year-old grip, security tried to stop her. She fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Plaster rained down like snow. Nobody moved after that. Now she stood in a room full of killers, the barrel aimed directly at the heart of the man everyone feared. Kwan Jin-Soo didn't flinch. He simply stared at her with eyes that held something she couldn't name. Recognition, perhaps. Or guilt. His tailored suit was pristine, despite the chaos she'd brought through his doors. The tiger tattoo crawling up his neck seemed to pulse in the dim light, the same symbol her mother had traced in her own blood 2 hours ago. "Find him," her mother had whispered, choking on words that came too slow. "The tiger. He needs to know." Then she died, right there in Lola's arms, in their tiny apartment. While the smell of gunpowder still hung in the air and footsteps echoed down the hallway, men fleeing a murder they'd just committed. "Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here for this intense journey. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments. I love seeing where this story travels. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now, because this tale is going to take us places you won't believe. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next." "You killed my mother," Lola said, her voice small but steady. "Didn't you?" The room held its breath. 6 guards flanked Kwan, hands hovering over concealed weapons. The air tasted like violence waiting to happen. But Kwan raised one hand, a subtle gesture that kept his men frozen. "What's your name, little one?" His voice was softer than she'd imagined, almost gentle. "Lola-chan." She forced the words past the lump in her throat. "My mother was Sarah-chan. You came for her 9 years ago. You never stopped looking." Something flickered across Kwan's face. Pain, raw and ancient. He took a step forward, slow, deliberate, like approaching a wounded animal. "Sarah." The name left his lips like a prayer. "Sarah is your mother?" "Was." Lola's finger tightened on the trigger. "She's dead. Because of you." Another step. His guards tensed, but he ignored them, his entire focus locked on the girl who held his life in her shaking hands. "When?" The question came out strangled. 2 hours ago. Men with guns. They asked where he was. They said she'd hidden long enough. Then they shot her." Tears burned Lola's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Before she died, she drew this. With her free hand, Lola pulled out a photograph from her pocket. The last thing her mother had pointed to. A picture of Kwan, younger, smiling, his arm around a woman whose face had been torn away. But the tiger tattoo was unmistakable. Kwan's face drained of color. "She kept that?" "Who were those men?" Lola demanded. "Why did they kill her?" "They weren't my men." His voice hardened, jaw clenching. "If they were, your mother would still be alive." "Liar!" The gun shook violently now. "She said you'd come for her. She said—" Glass exploded inward. The world erupted into chaos as bullets tore through the windows, ripping through furniture, walls, flesh. Kwan's guards scattered, returning fire. Someone screamed. Blood sprayed across expensive carpet, and Kwan Jin-Soo did something Lola never expected. He threw himself over her, his body becoming a shield as the warehouse transformed into a war zone. His weight drove them both to the floor behind a marble desk. His hand covered hers on the gun, not taking it away but steadying her grip. "Listen to me," he growled against her ear, his breath hot and urgent. "Your mother didn't run from me. She ran from them, the Red Lotus cartel, and if they killed her tonight—" His eyes met hers, dark with an emotion she finally recognized. "Grief." "Then they know about you, and they won't stop until you're dead too." Another explosion. The building shook. Smoke filled the room, acrid and choking. "Why?" Lola choked out. "Why do they want me dead? I'm nobody." Kwan's hand came up to her face, thumb brushing away a tear she didn't know had fallen. His expression cracked, revealing something raw underneath, something that looked almost like... "Because, little Lola Chan," he whispered, his voice breaking, "you're not nobody. You're everything. And the secret your mother died protecting." He glanced at the photograph, still clutched in her hand, at the torn-away face that had once smiled beside his. That's a secret worth killing for. What secret could be worth a mother's life? And why does this feared Mafia boss look at Lola like he's seeing a ghost? The truth is about to shatter everything she thought she knew. Kwan's private quarters existed in a different world from the bullet-riddled chaos below. Lola sat on a leather couch that probably cost more than her entire apartment building, the gun still in her lap because he'd let her keep it. Her mother's blood had dried brown on her school uniform. She hadn't cried since the shooting stopped. Couldn't. The tears had frozen somewhere behind her ribs. "Drink." Kwan set a mug of hot chocolate in front of her, the gesture so absurdly normal that Lola almost laughed. Almost. "You're a killer," she said instead. "Why would I drink anything you give me?" "Because if I wanted you dead, little one, you wouldn't have made it past the lobby." He settled into the chair across from her, wincing slightly. Blood seeped through his shirt sleeve where a bullet had grazed him while covering her body. "And because you haven't eaten since breakfast, I can hear your stomach growling." Lola's cheeks burned. She grabbed the mug anyway, hating how good the warmth felt against her palms. Hating how her mother used to make hot chocolate exactly like this, extra marshmallows, cinnamon on top. She looked up to find Kwan watching her with an expression that made her chest tight. "You have her eyes," he said quietly. "Sarah's eyes. Brown with gold flecks that catch the light when you're angry. Don't talk about her like you knew her." "I knew her better than anyone." His voice carried an ache that sounded genuine. "Before she disappeared. Before she..." He stopped, jaw working. "Before she made me believe she was dead." Lola's grip tightened on the mug. "My mother wasn't a liar." "No, she was a survivor." Kwan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Tell me about her, the woman she became after she left." "Why should I?" "Because I just killed 4 men to keep you breathing." His eyes hardened. "And because somewhere in what you know is the answer to why the Red Lotus wants you dead." The door burst open before Lola could respond. A woman strode in, late 20s, leather jacket, purple hair shaved on one side. She moved like violence contained in human form. "Boss, we've got a problem." She stopped short when she saw Lola. "What the hell is a kid doing here?" "Riley Corleone," Kwan said. "Meet Lola Chan, Sarah's daughter." Riley's expression cycled through shock, disbelief, then something calculating. "Sarah had a kid?" "Apparently." Kwan's tone could cut glass. "And someone just murdered Sarah to get to her." "The Red Lotus?" "Who else?" Riley whistled low, studying Lola with new interest. "She doesn't know, does she? About Sarah? About what her mother really was?" "What are you talking about?" Lola stood, the gun rising with her. Everyone kept speaking in riddles and she was sick of it. "What was my mother? What aren't you telling me?" Kwan and Riley exchanged a look. Some silent conversation passed between them that made Lola want to scream. "Your mother," Kwan said carefully, "worked for me once, a long time ago." "Worked for you? How?" "She was my dash. "She was the ghost of soul," Riley interrupted, ignoring Kwan's warning glare. "The Syndicate's best assassin, untouchable, lethal, legendary." She leaned against the doorframe. "Also, she and the boss here were..." "Riley." The single word from Kwan carried enough menace to stop Riley mid-sentence. but the damage was done. Lola's world tilted sideways. No, my mother was a nurse. She saved people. She was both, Kwan said softly. She saved people during the day and eliminated threats at night. That's who Sarah was. Complicated. Fierce, impossible to predict. His voice dropped. Impossible not to love. Lola's legs gave out. She sank back onto the couch, the gun slipping from her fingers. You're lying. Check her left shoulder blade, Riley suggested, not unkindly. She'll have a tattoo, a ghost orchid. Every syndicate assassin gets one. Lola's mind raced back, her mother changing clothes quickly, never letting Lola see her back fully. The late-night emergency shifts at the hospital, the way she could sense danger before it arrived. The gun hidden in the air vent, the same gun now on Kwan's coffee table. Why did she leave? Lola whispered. Kwan's face shuddered. That's complicated. Try simple words. I'm 10, not stupid. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Sarah's courage in miniature. She'd be proud. The smile faded. She left because she was pregnant. With you. And she knew, we both knew, what this life does to families, to children. She wanted better for you. The room went very quiet. You're saying... Lola couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't make her mouth form the words that would change everything. Kwan reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, worn from handling. Inside was the same photograph Lola carried, except this one was whole. The woman beside Kwan had a bright smile, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. Sarah Chan, her mother. Younger, happy, and unmistakably pregnant. She never told me, Kwan said, voice breaking. She vanished 9 years ago, and I thought she was dead. Killed by our enemies, I never stopped looking, never stopped hoping I was wrong. His eyes met Lola's, and in them she saw a grief that matched her own. I never knew about you. Drop a comment below if you're already hooked, because this is just the beginning of Lola's truth. Lola stared at the photograph, at the tiger tattoo on the man's neck, at her mother's glowing face, at the timeline that aligned perfectly with her own existence. No, she breathed. That's impossible. DNA doesn't lie, kid, Riley said almost gently, and you've got his jawline, his stubborn-as-hell attitude, too. Kwan stood slowly, extending his hand palm up, an offer, not a demand. I know this is overwhelming. I know you have every reason to hate me, but your mother died protecting you from people who want to finish what they started 9 years ago. His voice hardened with promise. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here where I can keep you safe, and together we're going to find out who killed Sarah Chan. And we're going to make them pay, Lola finished, surprising herself with the venom in her voice. Kwan's lips curved into something dark and approving. Yes, we are. Riley pushed off the doorframe. Boss, the Red Lotus just sent a message. They know she's here, and they're offering a trade. What kind of trade? Riley's expression turned grim. The girl for the ledger. Kwan went very still. What ledger? They think Sarah had it when she died. The ledger with every dirty secret, every politician bought, every judge owned. Riley's eyes flickered to Lola. They think maybe she gave it to her daughter. All eyes turned to Lola, and suddenly she remembered. Her mother's final words, the ones she'd been too shocked to process. Under the angel. He needs to know. Tell him. The angel watches over everything. I know where it is, Lola whispered. Kwan knelt in front of her, bringing them eye level. Where? But if I tell you, Lola's voice cracked. If I help you, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll let me pull the trigger when we find the people who killed my mom. Her small hands curled into fists. Promise you'll let me be the one." Kwan studied her for a long moment. Then slowly, deliberately, he picked up her mother's gun and placed it back in her hands. "I promise," he said. "On your mother's memory, I promise." Riley cleared her throat. "We've got incoming. Red Lotus Death Squad, 20 minutes out." Kwan stood, his whole demeanor shifting from grieving father to deadly syndicate boss. "Then we move. Now. Lola, where's this ledger?" Lola thought of the cemetery, the angel statue her mother visited every week, the hollow base where secrets could hide. "I'll take you there," she said, "but we have to go now, before they figure it out." Because somewhere in that ledger was the truth about why her mother had to die. And Lola Chan, daughter of a ghost, daughter of a killer, was going to make sure everyone paid. The cemetery was wrong. Lola felt it the moment Kwan's motorcade pulled through the iron gates. Too quiet. No groundskeeper. No mourners. Just rows of headstones catching moonlight like broken teeth. "Stay close," Kwan murmured, his hand resting on her shoulder as they walked. Riley flanked their left. 3 guards spread out behind them. Everyone was armed. Everyone was tense. The angel statue stood in the old section, wings spread wide, stone face serene. Lola's mother had brought her here every Sunday, always leaving white lilies at its base, always touching the angel's foot before they left. The angel watches over everything. Now Lola understood. It wasn't prayer. It was protection. "There." She pointed to the hollow beneath the statue's base, barely visible unless you knew where to look. Kwan knelt, his fingers finding the hidden compartment with practiced ease. He pulled out a leather-bound ledger, its pages thick with secrets that could topple governments. His expression darkened as he flipped through it. "This is..." He stopped, staring at a particular page. "Sarah documented everything. Every transaction, every murder, every..." His voice cut off abruptly. "Boss?" Riley leaned in, then froze. "Holy shit!" "What?" Lola demanded. "What is it?" Kwan's jaw clenched. "Your mother didn't just run because she was pregnant." He turned the ledger so Lola could see, a page filled with photographs and handwritten notes. "She ran because she discovered who really runs the Red Lotus cartel." The photograph showed a woman in an elegant suit, shaking hands with politicians. Beautiful, powerful, familiar in a way that made Lola's stomach turn. "That's..." Lola's voice failed her. "Director Chen," Riley finished grimly. "Head of the National Intelligence Service, the woman who's supposed to be fighting organized crime." She laughed bitterly. "She is organized crime. And she's your mother's sister," Kwan added softly, looking at Lola. "Your aunt." The world tilted. "My mother never mentioned..." "Because Victoria Chen erased Sarah from existence the moment she refused to join the family business." Kwan's voice turned hard. "The Red Lotus isn't just a cartel, it's a dynasty. Victoria runs it, always has. She wanted Sarah as her heir, but Sarah chose me instead. Chose love. Chose..." A bullet took out the guard behind them. Then everything exploded. Men in black tactical gear poured from behind tombstones like shadows given form. Riley returned fire immediately, dropping 2. Kwan shoved Lola behind the angel statue, his body a shield once more. "We're surrounded!" Riley shouted over the gunfire. "It's a trap!" But it wasn't the Red Lotus soldiers that made Kwan freeze. It was the man who stepped out from behind a mausoleum, hands raised, eyes locked on Lola with desperate intensity. "Don't shoot!" the man called out. "Please, I'm not with them. I'm..." He stopped, swallowing hard. "I'm Detective James Bourne. I worked with Sarah. I was her partner before everything went to hell. He was young, early 30s, with kind eyes and a bullet scar on his neck. He looked terrified but determined, like a man standing at the edge of a cliff deciding whether to jump. Sarah sent me a message 2 hours before she died," James continued, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. She said if anything happened to her, I had to protect Lola. She said... His voice cracked. She said to tell you about the angel. Kwan's gun didn't waver. Why should I believe you? Because I loved her too. The confession ripped out of James like a wound opening. Not the way you did. But I loved her. She was my best friend, my partner. The only person who knew I was investigating Victoria Chen from the inside. He looked at Lola, anguish written across his face. She made me promise if anything happened, I'd keep you safe. Both of you. Boss, we don't have time for this. Riley dropped another soldier, but more kept coming. We need to move. A black helicopter roared overhead, spotlight pinning them in harsh white light. A voice boomed through speakers, cultured and cold. Kwan Jin-Soo, how lovely to finally meet my niece. If this twist caught you off guard, imagine what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button because this story is about to go dark. Victoria Chen descended from the helicopter on a rope, landing with inhuman grace. She was everything the photograph promised. Elegant, deadly, terrifying in her calm. She looked at Lola the way a collector looks at a rare specimen. Hello, child. You have your mother's face. Pity you'll share her fate. Kwan stepped forward, putting himself between them. You'll have to go through me first. Gladly. Victoria's smile was poison. But first, give me the ledger. That's all I want. The ledger. And I let the child live. Liar, James spat. You'll kill her the moment you have it, just like you killed Sarah. Victoria's eyes flickered with something almost like regret. My sister chose her own death when she chose betrayal over blood. When she chose him... She gestured dismissively at Kwan. Over family legacy, I gave her 9 years to come home. She refused. So yes, Detective Bourne, I killed her. Personally. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Lola's hands found her mother's gun. The metal was warm from being pressed against her body. Her vision tunneled, focusing entirely on the woman who'd just confessed to murdering her mother, to murdering Sarah Chan. The woman who made hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, who sang off-key in the shower, who braided Lola's hair every morning before school. Lola, don't... Kwan's warning came too late. She fired. The shot went wide, intentionally. It tore through Victoria's sleeve, drawing blood but nothing fatal. Because Lola didn't want her dead quickly. She wanted her to suffer. I'm Sarah Chan's daughter, Lola said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. And I'm Kwan Jin-Soo's daughter, which means I'm the worst thing that ever happened to you. She cocked the gun again. You want the ledger? Come and take it. Victoria's expression shifted from amusement to something darker. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a worthy enemy. The girl has spirit. Very well. She gestured, and her soldiers moved forward as one. Kill everyone except the child. I want her alive. Go. James grabbed Lola's arm, pulling her toward a tomb entrance. There's a tunnel system. Sarah showed me years ago. Kwan and Riley laid down covering fire as James dragged Lola into the darkness, the ledger clutched against her chest. Behind them, the cemetery erupted into full-scale war. And as they ran through tunnels that smelled of earth and secrets, Lola realized 3 things. 1. Her aunt had just declared war on everyone she loved. 2. Her mother had been preparing for this moment for 9 years. And 3. The ledger in her hands contained more than just evidence. It contained Sarah Chan's final gift, a weapon that could destroy Victoria Chen's empire from within, if they survived long enough to use it. The cemetery was wrong. Lola felt it the moment Kwan's motorcade pulled through the iron gates. Too quiet, no groundskeeper, no mourners, just rows of headstones catching moonlight like broken teeth. Stay close, Kwan murmured, his hand resting on her shoulder as they walked. Riley flanked their left, 3 guards spread out behind them. Fortune was armed. Everyone was tense. The angel statue stood in the old section, wings spread wide, stone face serene. Lola's mother had brought her here every Sunday, always leaving white lilies at its base, always touching the angel's foot before they left. The angel watches over everything. Now Lola understood. It wasn't prayer, it was protection. There. She pointed to the hollow beneath the statue's base, barely visible unless you knew where to look. Kwan knelt, his fingers finding the hidden compartment with practiced ease. He pulled out a leather-bound ledger, its pages thick with secrets that could topple governments. His expression darkened as he flipped through it. This is... He stopped, staring at a particular page. Sarah documented everything. Every transaction, every murder, every... His voice cut off abruptly. Boss? Riley leaned in, then froze. Holy shit! What? Lola demanded. What is it? Kwan's jaw clenched. Your mother didn't just run because she was pregnant. He turned the ledger so Lola could see, a page filled with photographs and handwritten notes. She ran because she discovered who really runs the Red Lotus cartel. The photograph showed a woman in an elegant suit, shaking hands with politicians. Beautiful. Powerful. Familiar in a way that made Lola's stomach turn. That's... Lola's voice failed her. Director Chen, Riley finished grimly. Head of the National Intelligence Service, the woman who's supposed to be fighting organized crime. She laughed bitterly. She is organized crime. And she's your mother's sister, Kwan added softly, looking at Lola. Your aunt. The world tilted. My mother never mentioned. Because Victoria Chen erased Sarah from existence the moment she refused to join the family business. Kwan's voice turned hard. The Red Lotus isn't just a cartel, it's a dynasty. Victoria runs it, always has. She wanted Sarah as her heir, but Sarah chose me instead. Chose love, chose... A bullet took out the guard behind them. Then everything exploded. Men in black tactical gear poured from behind tombstones like shadows given form. Riley returned fire immediately, dropping 2. Kwan shoved Lola behind the angel statue, his body a shield once more. We're surrounded, Riley shouted over the gunfire. It's a trap. But it wasn't the Red Lotus soldiers that made Kwan freeze. It was the man who stepped out from behind a mausoleum, hands raised, eyes locked on Lola with desperate intensity. Don't shoot, the man called out. Please, I'm not with them, He stopped, swallowing hard. I'm Detective James Bourne. I worked with Sarah, I was her partner before everything went to hell. He was young, early 30s, with kind eyes and a bullet scar on his neck. He looked terrified but determined, like a man standing at the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. Sarah sent me a message 2 hours before she died, James continued, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. She said if anything happened to her, I had to protect Lola. She said... His voice cracked. She said to tell you about the angel. Kwan's gun didn't waver. Why should I believe you? Because I loved her too. The confession ripped out of James like a wound opening. Not the way you did. But I loved her. She was my best friend, my partner. The only person who knew I was investigating Victoria Chen from the inside. He looked at Lola, anguish written across his face. She made me promise if anything happened, I'd keep you safe. Both of you. Boss, we don't have time for this. Riley dropped another soldier, but more kept coming. We need to move! A black helicopter roared overhead, spotlight pinning them in harsh white light. A voice boomed through speakers, cultured and cold. Kwan Jin-Soo, how lovely to finally meet my niece. If this twist caught you off guard, imagine what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button because this story is about to go dark. Victoria Chen descended from the helicopter on a rope, landing with inhuman grace. She was everything the photograph promised. Elegant, deadly, terrifying in her calm. She looked at Lola the way a collector looks at a rare specimen. Hello, child. You have your mother's face. Pity you'll share her fate. Kwan stepped forward, putting himself between them. You'll have to go through me first. Gladly. Victoria's smile was poison. But first, give me the ledger. That's all I want. The ledger, and I let the child live. Liar, James spat. You'll kill her the moment you have it, just like you killed Sarah. Victoria's eyes flickered with something almost like regret. My sister chose her own death when she chose betrayal over blood. When she chose him, she gestured dismissively at Kwan. Over family legacy, I gave her 9 years to come home. She refused. So yes, Detective Bourne, I killed her. Personally. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Lola's hands found her mother's gun. The metal was warm from being pressed against her body. Her vision tunneled, focusing entirely on the woman who'd just confessed to murdering her mother, to murdering Sarah Chan. The woman who made hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, who sang off-key in the shower, who braided Lola's hair every morning before school. Lola, don't! Kwan's warning came too late. She fired. The shot went wide, intentionally. It tore through Victoria's sleeve, drawing blood but nothing fatal. Because Lola didn't want her dead quickly. She wanted her to suffer. I'm Sarah Chan's daughter, Lola said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. And I'm Kwan Jin-Soo's daughter, which means I'm the worst thing that ever happened to you. She cocked the gun again. You want the ledger? Come and take it. Victoria's expression shifted from amusement to something darker. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a worthy enemy. The girl has spirit. Very well. She gestured, and her soldiers moved forward as one. Kill everyone except the child. I want her alive. Go! James grabbed Lola's arm, pulling her toward a tomb entrance. There's a tunnel system. Sarah showed me years ago. Kwan and Riley laid down covering fire as James dragged Lola into the darkness, the ledger clutched against her chest. Behind them, the cemetery erupted into full-scale war, and as they ran through tunnels that smelled of earth and secrets, Lola realized 3 things. 1. Her aunt had just declared war on everyone she loved. 2. Her mother had been preparing for this moment for 9 years. And 3. The ledger in her hands contained more than just evidence. It contained Sarah Chan's final gift, a weapon that could destroy Victoria Chen's empire from within, if they survived long enough to use it. The tunnels twisted like a serpent's spine beneath Seoul's oldest district. James led them through the darkness, flashlight cutting thin paths through air that tasted like forgotten graves. Lola's lungs burned. Her legs screamed, but she didn't slow down. Couldn't. Not with the sound of pursuit echoing behind them, boots on stone, shouts in the dark. How much further? Kwan demanded, his breathing controlled despite the bullet wound in his shoulder that leaked blood with every step. 2 more minutes. There's a safe house. Sarah set it up years ago. She made me memorize the route. James glanced back at Lola, concern etched in every line of his face. You okay, kid? Lola clutched the ledger tighter. Stop asking me that. She's her mother's daughter, Kwan muttered, almost proudly. Then he stumbled, catching himself against the tunnel wall. Boss! Riley appeared from a side passage, weapon raised. She'd stayed behind to slow their pursuers. Blood streaked her face, but her eyes were sharp. They're coming. We've got maybe 60 seconds. Then we run. James grabbed Lola's hand. Now! They burst through a hidden door into a basement that didn't exist on any city map. James slammed it shut, engaging locks that looked military-grade. The space was small, a storage room converted into a bunker. Canned food, medical supplies, weapons, and photographs covering one entire wall. Photographs of Lola, her first day of school, playing in the park, reading at the library. 9 years of surveillance, meticulously documented. Sarah never stopped watching over you, James said quietly. Every day, every moment she couldn't be with you, she made sure you were safe. Lola's throat closed. She walked to the wall, fingers tracing a photo from last month, her 10th birthday. She was smiling at a cupcake, completely unaware her mother stood across the street, hidden behind a newspaper, crying behind sunglasses. "She loved you so much," James whispered. "Everything she did, every choice she made, it was all for you." "Then why didn't she stay?" The question ripped out of Lola before she could stop it. "Why didn't she?" "Because staying would have killed you both." Kwan collapsed into a chair, Riley immediately moving to assess his wound. His face had gone pale. "Victoria would have used you against Sarah, used you to control her. Your mother knew that. So she gave up everything, including me, to keep you free." Riley cut away his jacket, revealing the bullet wound. "This needs stitches. Real ones, not my field work." "Do what you can." Kwan's eyes never left Lola. "We need to figure out our next move before you bleed out," Riley snapped. "Boss, you need a hospital." "Hospitals mean questions. Questions mean police. Police mean Victoria." His jaw set stubbornly. "We stay hidden. We plan. We survive." James knelt beside Lola, who hadn't moved from the photograph wall. "Your mom? She talked about you constantly. What books you were reading, how fast you were growing. She was so proud when you won that spelling bee last year." "You were there." Lola remembered now. A man in the back row, clapping louder than anyone. She'd thought he was someone's parent. "You were watching me too." "Sarah asked me to, when she couldn't." He hesitated. "I need to tell you something. About the night your mother died." Lola turned to face him. "She knew they were coming. She called me, told me to find you after. His voice broke. "She made me promise something else too. She said if you ever found the ledger, if you ever learned the truth, I had to tell you." He pulled out a key from his pocket. "There's more. Another safe deposit box. Your mother said you'd know where." The key was old, brass, with a number engraved. 1127. Lola's birthday. "She said the ledger is just the beginning," James continued. "The real weapon, the thing Victoria is truly afraid of, is in that box." "What is it?" Riley asked, securing the last bandage on Kwan's shoulder. "I don't know. Sarah wouldn't tell me. She said only Lola would understand." All eyes turned to Lola. She stared at the key, mind racing through 9 years of memories, searching for the clue her mother must have left. Then it hit her. "The bank by grandmother's house." Lola's voice gained strength. "Mom took me there every year on my birthday. Said we were visiting savings bonds, but we never actually went inside. We'd just..." She closed her eyes, remembering. "We'd touch the lion statue out front. She'd whisper something I could never hear." "That's it," Kwan said, pushing himself to his feet despite Riley's protests. "That's where we go next." "That's suicide," Riley countered. "Victoria will have every location from Sarah's past under surveillance. The moment we show our faces..." An explosion rocked the building above them. Dust rained from the ceiling. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. "They found us," James said unnecessarily. Red emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in blood-colored shadows. Through the reinforced door, they could hear drilling. Victoria's soldiers cutting their way in. Kwan checked his weapon. "How many exits?" "One," James admitted. "Through the subway maintenance tunnels, but it's a straight shot, no cover. They'll pick us off the moment we run." "Then we don't run." Kwan's expression turned predatory. "We fight." "There's 20 of them and 4 of us," Riley's voice rose. "And one of us is a 10-year-old. "I can shoot," Lola said quietly. She picked up her mother's gun, checking the magazine like she'd seen in movies. "Mom taught me. I didn't know that's what she was doing, but she taught me." The 3 adults stared at her. Every Sunday, Lola continued, voice steady despite her shaking hands. We played this game at the arcade, shooting ranges. She said it was about hand-eye coordination, about breathing, about being still inside even when everything's chaos. She met Kwan's eyes. She was training me. For this. For the day when I'd have to fight for my life. Kwan's expression cracked, revealing something raw underneath. Pride. Pain. Love. Sarah knew, he whispered. She always knew it would come to this. The drilling stopped. The door handle began to turn. And in the red-tinged darkness of Sarah Chan's final safe house, 4 people prepared to make their stand. A syndicate boss with a bullet wound and 9 years of grief. A detective who loved a woman who could never love him back. A purple-haired enforcer with loyalty carved into her bones. And a 10-year-old girl who'd just discovered her mother had been training her all along. Training her not just to survive, but to win. Positions, Kwan ordered. The door exploded inward, and Lola Chan, daughter of ghosts, pulled the trigger. Lola's first bullet hit center mass. The Red Lotus soldier dropped like a puppet with cut strings. She'd aimed for his Kevlar vest, just like her mother had taught her during those game days. Disable, don't kill not yet. Not until she faced the woman who mattered. Chaos erupted. Kwan and Riley moved like dancers in a violent ballet, their weapons singing harmony with death. James covered the rear, his shots precise, professional. For 90 seconds, they held the door. Then Victoria Chen walked through the smoke. She didn't run, didn't take cover, just strode through the firefight like she was immune to bullets, and maybe she was. Her soldiers formed a human shield, absorbing rounds meant for her. Enough, she commanded. The shooting stopped. On both sides, like she'd flipped a switch that controlled everyone in the room. Except she had. James lowered his weapon first, not dropping it, not surrendering, just lowering it. Kwan noticed. So did Riley. But before either could react, James moved. He was fast. Faster than anyone expected. His gun pressed against Lola's temple before she could scream. Before Kwan could raise his weapon. Before Riley could even process the betrayal happening in front of her eyes. I'm sorry, James whispered against Lola's hair. I'm so sorry. James, Kwan's voice was death itself. Step away from my daughter, now. He can't, Victoria said pleasantly, moving closer, because James doesn't work for you. He works for me. He always has. The world stopped. No, Lola breathed. You said you loved my mother. You said I did love her. That part was real. James's voice cracked, but his gun never wavered. But Victoria is my mother. Sarah was investigating her for years, and I was Victoria's way of keeping Sarah under surveillance, of making sure she never got too close to the truth. Riley's weapon swung toward James. I will end you. And you'll kill the girl, Victoria interrupted. James has his finger on the trigger. One muscle spasm and Lola's brain decorates that wall. She smiled. Drop your weapons, all of you. Kwan's jaw clenched. If you hurt her. You'll what, kill me? You've been trying for 9 years. Victoria's laugh was glass-breaking. But you could never find me because your precious Sarah never told you the real secret, the one that would have changed everything. What secret? Kwan demanded. Victoria's smile widened. James, show him what's in the girl's pocket. The other pocket. James's free hand reached into Lola's jacket, pulling out a folded paper she didn't know was there. Must have slipped in during the chaos. He unfolded it one-handed, his face going white. What is it? Lola whispered. James's voice was barely audible. A DNA test, dated 2 weeks ago. Read it aloud, Victoria commanded. Let them all hear Sarah's final lie. James swallowed hard. Subject 1, Lola Chan. Subject 2, Kwan Jin-Soo. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. The words hit like bullets. Kwan stumbled backward. That's impossible. I saw the photograph. Sarah was pregnant when she left. The timing was perfect, Victoria agreed. Sarah got pregnant by you, yes, but she miscarried at 8 weeks. She never told you because she knew it would destroy you, so when she discovered she was pregnant again 3 months later. Victoria's eyes glittered. She let you believe the child was yours. Comment below if this twist just destroyed you, because we're not done yet. Liar, Kwan growled, but his voice shook. The test doesn't lie. DNA doesn't lie. Victoria pulled out her phone, showing a photograph. This is Sarah at 6 months pregnant, and this, she swiped to another image, is the man she was sleeping with, Detective Minjun Kapoor, James's partner at the time. Married. Dead now, unfortunately. Car accident arranged by yours truly when I discovered he'd touched my sister. Lola's world was disintegrating. My mom wouldn't. Your mother was desperate, Victoria said, almost gently. She'd lost Kwan's baby, lost her chance at the family she wanted. So when Min-jun offered comfort, nature took its course. She looked at Kwan. Sarah used you, let you believe Lola was yours so you'd protect her, so you'd go to war with me over a child that was never your blood. Kwan's face had gone ashen. His gun hand dropped, the fight draining out of him like blood from a wound. No. Lola's voice cut through the silence. I don't believe you. Believe what you want. Science doesn't care. Victoria gestured, and James started pulling Lola toward the door. Now, you'll give me the ledger, and I'll let you all lie to yourselves about Sarah being a saint. Pretend this child means something. I don't care anymore. I just want what's mine. But Lola was remembering. Her mother's last words. The key. The strange way James had appeared at exactly the right moment. The DNA test that appeared in her pocket like magic. The angel watches over everything. Her mother had told her that 1,000 times. And suddenly Lola understood. It wasn't about the statue. It was about watching, seeing, understanding the truth beneath the lies. You're wrong, Lola said quietly. Victoria raised an eyebrow. About what, child? About everything. Lola looked at Kwan, saw the devastation in his eyes, and felt something crystallize inside her. James, you should check that DNA test again. Look at the date. It says 2 weeks ago. James stopped, looked closer. Wait. This is dated 2 weeks from now. Impossible, Victoria snapped. I had that test done. You had a fake test made, Lola interrupted. My mother predicted you'd do exactly this. She knew you'd try to break Kwan by making him think I wasn't his, so she planted a fake test with the wrong date to prove you're lying. The room went very quiet. And she knew James would betray us, Lola continued, her voice growing stronger. Because you told her, didn't you, Detective? You told my mother you were Victoria's son. You told her everything. James's gun trembled against her head. Lola, that's why she trusted you. Not in spite of being Victoria's son, but because of it. Lola met Kwan's eyes. My mother didn't run because of a miscarriage. She ran because she was pregnant with me, and she knew Victoria would use me as a weapon. She let everyone believe lies to protect the truth. And what truth is that? Victoria's voice had lost its confidence. Lola smiled, cold and certain. That I'm exactly who my mother raised me to be. Kwan Jin-Soo's daughter. Your worst nightmare. She slammed her head backward into James's nose. And you just made a really big mistake. The key in her pocket wasn't for a safe deposit box. It was a detonator. And Sarah Chan's final gift was about to bring Victoria's empire crashing down. The key wasn't just a detonator. It was a choice. Lola's fingers closed around it as James reeled backward, blood streaming from his broken nose. The metal was warm in her palm, almost alive, pulsing with the weight of her mother's final gambit. Don't! James lunged for her, but Riley was faster, tackling him to the ground. What does it trigger? Kwan demanded, moving toward Lola. What did Sarah... The world answered before Lola could. Explosions rippled through Seoul like dominoes falling. Not here, not in this bunker, but above them, across the city. Every single location in the ledger erupted simultaneously. Victoria's warehouses, her smuggling operations, her blackmail archives, her money laundering fronts. 9 years of empire building gone in coordinated fire. Victoria's phone lit up with incoming calls. Dozens, then hundreds, her face twisted with rage. What have you done? What my mother planned all along. Lola's voice was steady, but inside she was screaming. Because she'd just started a war she didn't know how to finish. She documented everything, mapped everything, and rigged it all to blow the moment someone, me, activated this key. You stupid child. Victoria's composure cracked completely. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Those weren't just my operations. They were shared territories, joint ventures with every major syndicate in Asia, the Yakuza, the Triads, the Bratva. She laughed, high and hysterical. You just declared war on everyone. The floor beneath them trembled, not from distant explosions, from something closer. That's the subway tunnel collapsing, James croaked from the floor, Riley's knee in his back. Your mother's final failsafe. She rigged this entire district to come down if anyone ever found this safe house. No, Kwan breathed. Sarah wouldn't. She would. James's eyes met Lola's, filled with genuine anguish. Because she knew Victoria would eventually find you, would eventually corner you here, so she turned this place into a grave. For all of us. The ceiling cracked. Concrete dust rained down like snow. We need to leave, now! Riley hauled James to his feet, gun pressed against his spine. There has to be another exit. There isn't, Victoria said flatly. She'd gone very calm, the way people do when they accept they're about to die. My sister wins. Even from the grave, she wins. Another tremor, harder. The emergency lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness broken only by flashlight beams that danced like desperate ghosts. Lola. Kwan's hand found her shoulder in the dark. Listen to me. Your mother wouldn't have done this without an escape route. Think. What did she tell you? What did she... She told me stories. Lola's voice was small, childlike, the 10-year-old underneath the warrior finally showing through. Every night, about a girl who could fly, who spread her wings and soared above everything that tried to cage her. Where, Lola? Where did the girl fly? Up. The answer came from somewhere deep, somewhere her mother had planted it years ago. She always flew up. Lola's flashlight swept the ceiling. There, hidden in the corner, camouflaged by dust and shadow, a maintenance hatch. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see if they make it out alive, because I'm not even sure they will. They reached it as the room began to collapse in earnest. James went first, despite being a prisoner, because they needed someone to check for traps. Then Riley. Then Victoria, because leaving her meant she'd die, and this wasn't over. Lola needed her alive to answer for what she'd done. You next, Kwan told Lola. Together, she insisted. I'm too heavy. The ladder won't... Together! The word was a scream, raw and desperate. Everyone leaves me. Everyone dies or lies or disappears. You don't get to do that too. Kwan's expression shattered. I'm not your... He stopped. Because the DNA test was fake. Because Sarah's lies were protection. Because this child looking at him with her mother's eyes had just chosen him, blood or not. Okay, he whispered. Together. They climbed as the world ended beneath them. The ladder was old, rusted, protesting their combined weight with groans that sounded like dying animals. Kwan went first, pulling Lola up rung by rung, his wounded shoulder screaming with every movement. They emerged into a subway station. Abandoned, scheduled for demolition. The others were already there, James zip-tied and subdued, Victoria looking diminished in her designer suit now covered in dust and blood. We're not safe yet, Riley panted. Victoria's people will be... Gunfire from 3 directions answered her. Not Victoria's people. Worse. Representatives from every syndicate whose operations Lola had just destroyed, the Yakuza, the Triads, the Bratva, all converging on the only survivors of Sarah Chan's final revenge. "There's too many," James said. "We can't fight our way out of this." Kwan pulled Lola behind him, his body once again becoming her shield. "Then we die fighting." "No." Victoria stood, straightening her jacket with trembling hands. "There's one way out." She looked at Lola with something that might have been respect or grief. "You give them me. Tell them I was behind everything. That Sarah worked for me, not with me. That I manipulated Kwan, used you, orchestrated it all." "You want us to lie?" Riley's laugh was bitter. "I want you to survive." Victoria's voice softened. "James is my son, but Lola—" She swallowed hard. "Lola is my sister's daughter, the only piece of Sarah left in this world. I won't let her die for my sins." "Touching," a voice called from the darkness, "but unnecessary." A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, elegant, moving with predatory grace that made even Victoria step back. The woman wore white pristine, despite the destruction. Her smile was cruel and beautiful. "I am Elsa Soprano," she announced, "and I speak for the consortium. You've cost us billions tonight, disrupted operations that took decades to build." She looked at Lola with clinical interest. The little bomber, Sarah Chan's legacy. "What do you want?" Kwan growled. "Balance." Elsa's eyes glittered. "The consortium doesn't care about revenge. We care about profit, and right now the most profitable thing would be—" She paused, savoring the moment. "To auction you all off, separately, to the highest bidding syndicate. They can do what they wish with you." "You're monsters," Lola whispered. "We're business people." Elsa gestured, and soldiers moved in. "Take them, separate them, and let's begin the bidding." Kwan fought. Riley fought. James even fought, despite his restraints. But there were too many. They were exhausted, wounded, outnumbered. Lola felt hands grab her, pulling her away from Kwan. She screamed his name, saw him reaching for her, blood streaming from a dozen wounds, his eyes wild with desperation. "Lola!" Then a bag went over her head. The world went dark. And Lola Chan, who'd started this night with a gun and a question, was dragged away from everyone she had left. Alone. Again. Just like her mother always feared. Lola woke in darkness. Not the hood anymore. A cell. Stone walls. A single bulb swinging overhead. Her hands were zip-tied, but loosely. Whoever secured them hadn't expected a 10-year-old to be dangerous. They were wrong. She worked her wrists, ignoring the burn, using the flexibility her mother's yoga sessions had given her. Those hadn't been about mindfulness. They'd been about escape, about surviving captivity. Everything Mom did was preparation. The zip tie snapped. Lola stood, assessing. The door was steel, but old. The lock was electronic, but the panel was exposed. And there, in the corner, a ventilation grate just wide enough for a child. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "You're small, baby. That's not a weakness. That's your superpower. You can go places others can't hide, where others won't look. Survive when others think you're beaten." Lola smiled in the darkness. Then she began to move. 3 cells away, Kwan sat against a wall, blood drying on his face. They'd separated him from Riley, from James, from Victoria. But worst of all, from Lola, his daughter, because she was. DNA didn't matter. Blood didn't matter. What mattered was that Sarah had trusted him with their child. That Lola had looked at him in that bunker and screamed, "Together," like it was the only word that mattered. He'd failed 2 women he loved. Sarah, by not finding her in time. And now Lola, by letting her be taken. The door opened. He expected guards, torture, death. He got James. The detective stumbled in, shoved by unseen hands, the door slamming shut behind him. His face was bruised, nose swollen from where Lola had broken it. He collapsed against the opposite wall, not meeting Kwan's eyes. "Say something," James finally whispered. "Tell me I'm a traitor, that you'll kill me, that—" "Did you know?" Kwan's voice was quiet, deadly. "Did you know they'd take her?" "No." James looked up, eyes red. "I swear I was supposed to— Victoria wanted me to gain Sarah's trust, feed her false information, but Sarah—" His voice cracked. "She saw through me in the first week, and instead of exposing me, she used me, turned me, made me her double agent inside Victoria's operation." Kwan studied him. "Why should I believe you?" "Because Sarah told me about the miscarriage." James met his gaze steadily. "The real one. The baby she lost. Your baby. At 8 weeks. She cried in my arms. She told me the guilt almost killed her, making you think Lola was yours when she didn't know for sure. But then—" He pulled something from his pocket. A real DNA test, crumpled and worn. "She had this done when Lola was 3. Look at the result." Kwan took it with shaking hands. Read it once, twice, 3 times. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. But Victoria's test said— "Victoria's test was fake, just like Lola said. Sarah miscarried your first child, yes. But 3 months later, before she slept with Min-jun, before anything else—" James smiled sadly. "You came to her apartment drunk, don't you remember? The night you thought was a dream? That was real. And 9 months later, Lola was born." Kwan's hands trembled. "Sarah never told me." "Because you were both being watched. One wrong move and Victoria would have known. So Sarah let everyone believe lies to protect the truth that Lola is yours. Always was. Always will be. Comment below if these revelations are hitting you as hard as they're hitting Kwan, because we're just getting started." The wall exploded, not literally. But a section swung open, a hidden passage, and Riley stumbled through, Victoria right behind her. Then, impossibly, Lola crawled out of the ventilation shaft above them, landing with cat-like grace. "Lola!" Kwan caught her, crushing her against his chest. "How did you—" "Mom taught me." Lola pulled back, grinning despite everything. "She showed me how buildings work, where the weak points are, how to read architectural plans in my head." Her expression grew serious. "And she left me something else. In my shoe, I just found it." She pulled out a micro SD card, no bigger than her fingernail. "What is it?" Riley asked. "Insurance." Victoria's voice was hoarse. She'd been crying, a sight that seemed impossible for the Iron Woman who'd terrorized them. "Sarah recorded everything, every conversation with every consortium member, every transaction, every murder." She looked at Lola with something like awe. "Your mother spent 9 years building a case that would bring down not just me, but the entire criminal network in Asia. She was never running. She was hunting. And now we have it." Lola held up the card like a weapon. "Every syndicate that wants us dead, they're all on here. Their secrets, their sins, their weaknesses." "That's suicide," James breathed. "You release that, they'll burn the world to kill you." "Good," Kwan said, standing. His voice had changed, no longer defeated, no longer broken. "Let them come. Because I'm done hiding, done running, done letting my family get hurt while I play defense." He looked at each of them in turn. "Sarah spent 9 years preparing for war. Now we finish what she started." "How?" Riley checked her weapon. Somehow she'd kept it hidden. "There's hundreds of them. 6 of us." "5, Victoria corrected. "I'm not fighting my own people." "Yes, you are." Lola's voice cut like steel. "Because you owe my mother, you owe me, and because if we go down, we're taking you with us, so you can die a martyr or live a traitor." She smiled, cold and certain. "Your choice, Aunt Victoria." Victoria stared at her sister's daughter, saw Sarah in every line of her face, every spark of defiance. Finally she laughed, bitter, broken, real. "Sarah trained you well." She pulled a phone from her jacket, somehow intact. Fine, I'll make the call, but understand, what we're about to do will change everything. There's no going back. Good, Lola repeated. Back is where my mother died. Forward is where we make them pay. She looked at Kwan, really looked at him, and saw past the blood and bruises to the man who'd thrown himself over her body twice, who'd called her his daughter without hesitation, who'd fought an army to keep her breathing. Together? She asked softly. Kwan took her hand. Always. And in that moment, in a cell beneath Seoul where they'd been meant to die, Sarah Chan's family became something more than blood. They became purpose. They became vengeance. They became the weapon she'd spent 9 years forging. Victoria made the call. Riley picked the lock. James led them through passages only he knew. And Kwan carried Lola on his back when her small legs couldn't keep pace, her arms wrapped around his neck, her mother's SD card clutched tight. They emerged into Seoul's neon night not as victims, but as hunters. And the consortium, the organization that thought itself untouchable, was about to learn what happened when you murdered Sarah Chan's family. They were about to learn fear. The consortium met in a tower that pierced Seoul's skyline like a dagger. 30 floors up, in a room lined with bulletproof glass, the most dangerous people in Asia gathered for an emergency session. The bombings had cost them billions someone had to pay. They expected to auction off prisoners. Instead, they got an invitation. Come to the top floor. Come alone. Come see what Sarah Chan left behind. Elsa Soprano arrived first, flanked by guards who swept the room for threats. Found none. Just an empty conference table, chairs arranged in a circle, and a single laptop displaying a frozen video file. It's a trap, one guard muttered. Obviously. Elsa's smile was predatory. But I do love a good trap. The others arrived in succession. Yakuza, Triads, Bratva, each syndicate sending their second-in-command, each one armed and paranoid. Within 20 minutes, the room held the operational brains of Asia's criminal underworld, and none of them noticed the ventilation system clicking on, or the colorless gas that began filtering through. How long until they realize? Riley whispered from their position 2 floors below. 3 minutes, Victoria replied, watching monitors that showed the conference room. It's not lethal, just persuasive. An aerosolized truth serum I developed for interrogations. You gassed the consortium? James looked impressed despite himself. No, Victoria's smile was sharp. My niece did. I just provided the recipe. Lola sat at a computer terminal, fingers flying across keyboards like her mother had taught her during homework time. Every session had been hacking lessons disguised as typing practice. Every puzzle game had taught her encryption. Always 3 steps ahead, baby. Always know what your enemy will do before they do it. They're getting drowsy, Kwan observed. He stood behind Lola, one hand on her shoulder, the other holding a detonator that would blow the building's supports if anything went wrong. How long before? Now. Lola pressed enter. The video file played. Sarah Chan's face filled every screen in the conference room. Alive, vibrant, recorded days before her death. Hello, consortium. Her voice was warm honey laced with poison. If you're watching this, I'm dead, and you're all about to join me. The syndicate leaders tried to stand. Couldn't. The serum had worked faster than expected, locking their muscles while keeping their minds horrifyingly clear. For 9 years, I documented everything. Every deal, every murder, every politician bought, every judge owned, every child trafficked, every life destroyed. Sarah's eyes held no mercy. I have bank accounts, shipping manifests, burial sites, confessions from your own people who thought I was one of you. If this moment is giving you chills, drop a comment and tell me, because Sarah Chan is about to burn it all down from beyond the grave. But I didn't gather this evidence for the police. They're too corrupt, too compromised, too afraid. Sarah leaned forward, her smile terrible and beautiful. I gathered it for her. For my daughter. For Lola. The camera panned, showing 9-year-old Lola asleep on a couch, unaware she was being filmed. She's everything I'm not. Pure, innocent, full of hope. And you monsters wanted to use her, control her, destroy her. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. So I'm giving her the tools to destroy you first. The screen split. One side showing Sarah, the other showing live feeds from news stations worldwide. In 30 seconds, every piece of evidence I gathered uploads simultaneously to every major news outlet, law enforcement agency, and government watchdog on the planet. Your empires don't just fall, they burn! Elsa Soprano tried to scream, managed only a wheeze. But Sarah held up one finger. There's a way out. One single option for survival. The syndicate leader's eyes fixed on her, desperate, terrified. My daughter is going to walk into that room, and you're going to transfer every asset, every operation, every dirty dollar you own into accounts she controls not to steal, but to dismantle, to redirect, to fund hospitals and schools and shelters for the people you've exploited. Sarah's expression softened. Or you refuse, and the evidence uploads anyway. Your empires end, your people turn on you, and my daughter becomes the most dangerous person in Asia, not because she's a killer, but because she's the keeper of your secrets. The video froze on Sarah's face. Determined, fierce, a mother's love weaponized into vengeance. The conference room door opened. Lola walked in. 10 years old, 4 feet tall, wearing her mother's leather jacket that hung to her knees. In her hands, a tablet displaying transfer authorizations ready to be executed. Behind her came Kwan, Riley, James, and Victoria. Armed. Ready. United by something stronger than blood or loyalty. United by Sarah. Hello, Lola said quietly. I'm Sarah Chan's daughter, and you have 60 seconds to decide if you want to live. They chose life. One by one, paralyzed by drugs and fear, the syndicate leaders used eye-tracking software to authorize transfers, billions of dollars flowing from criminal enterprises into accounts that would fund legitimate operations, hospitals in neighborhoods they'd destroyed, schools in cities they'd corrupted, rehabilitation centers for the addicts they'd created. The consortium didn't die, it transformed, became something Sarah had envisioned, a network of resources redirected toward rebuilding what crime had broken. It won't last, Victoria murmured, watching the transfers complete. Someone will fight back. Try to reclaim what they lost. Let them try. Kwan's arm wrapped around Lola's shoulders. We have the evidence, we have the leverage, and most importantly, he looked down at Lola with fierce pride. We have Sarah's daughter, and she's more dangerous than all of us combined. Lola looked up at him. Am I? You walked into a room full of killers twice, once with a gun, once with an idea. Kwan knelt, bringing them eye level. Your mother was the ghost of soul. But you, Lola-chan, you're something new, something they'll never see coming. What's that? Hope with teeth. The transfers completed. Elsa Soprano's eyes tracked to Lola, still unable to move, but clearly conscious. Clearly understanding that a 10-year-old had just dismantled the most powerful criminal organization in the world. The serum wears off in an hour, Victoria told them conversationally. By then, every news station worldwide will have received the evidence packages. You'll be too busy managing crises to come after us. She smiled at her niece. And if you do, well, there's more where that came from. Sarah spent 9 years preparing contingencies. We've barely used the first one. It was a lie. This was Sarah's only plan, but they didn't need to know that. We should go, James said, checking his watch, before the authorities arrive. They moved as one unit toward the exit. But Lola stopped at the door, turning back to face the paralyzed syndicate leaders. My mother told me once that the world is full of monsters, but she also said monsters are just people who forgot they had a choice. Lola's voice was clear, carrying across the silent room. She gave you a choice tonight. Live differently or don't live at all. She walked out without waiting for a response, because Sarah Chan's daughter didn't need their approval. She already had their empires. They emerged onto Seoul's streets as dawn broke. The city was waking, unaware that its entire criminal infrastructure had just been gutted and repurposed by a 10-year-old girl and her mother's ghost. Sirens wailed in the distance. News helicopters circled the consortium tower. The world was about to change, and they'd been the catalyst. "What now?" Riley asked. Kwan looked at Lola. "That's up to her." Lola thought about her mother, about the woman who'd been an assassin and a nurse, a criminal and a hero, a liar and the most honest person she'd ever known. "Everything I did was for you, baby. Every choice, every sacrifice, every secret." "Now," Lola said, taking Kwan's hand, "we go home. Not the apartment where her mother died, not the safe house that had collapsed, but somewhere new, somewhere they'd build together, because Sarah Chan had given her daughter more than evidence and escape routes. She'd given her a family, and family, blood or chosen, broken or rebuilt, was worth fighting for. 6 months later, the apartment overlooked Han River, sunlight streaming through windows that Lola had picked herself. Not too high, not too isolated. Close enough to the city to feel alive, far enough to breathe. Home. Kwan found her on the balcony, sketchbook in her lap, drawing the skyline. She'd started therapy 3 months ago, started school 4 months ago, started smiling again 5 months ago, started calling him Dad 2 weeks ago. "Breakfast is ready," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. Lola looked up, and the wariness that used to live in her eyes had faded to something gentler. "Riley's cooking?" "God, no. I ordered from that place you like." Kwan settled beside her, careful to maintain the space she sometimes needed. "The one with the egg sandwiches." "Mom used to take me there." Lola's voice didn't break anymore when she mentioned Sarah. The grief had softened into something bearable, something that coexisted with joy instead of consuming it. Every Sunday after the cemetery. "I know. She told me in one of her letters." Lola glanced at him. "There are more letters?" 47. Kwan smiled sadly. "She wrote one every month for 9 years, left them with her lawyer with instructions to deliver them to me if anything happened to her. The first one just arrived last week. I'll get one a month for the next 4 years. "What did they say?" "Everything she couldn't tell me while she was alive. About you, mostly. Your first word. First step. First day of school." His voice roughened. "She wanted me to know every moment I missed, every second of your life she wished I could have been there for." Lola set down her sketchbook and leaned against him. The gesture was still new enough to make Kwan's chest tight. "Do you think she knew? That it would end like this?" "Your mother knew everything." Kwan wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "She was 3 steps ahead of everyone, always, even death." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the river flow below. Seoul had changed. The news cycle had been brutal. Consortium arrests, asset seizures, government resignations. But beneath the chaos, something new was growing. Sarah's vision. The repurposed funds had opened 12 hospitals in underprivileged districts, built 30 schools, established rehabilitation centers that actually helped. Instead of warehousing addicts, the ghost of Seoul had become a legend twice, once as an assassin, once as a savior. "Riley called," Kwan said eventually. "The community center opens next week. She wants you to cut the ribbon." "The one in Gangnam, where Mom used to work?" "The same. They're naming it after her. The Sarah Chan Center for Second Chances." Kwan paused. "You don't have to go if it's too much." "I want to go." Lola's voice was firm. "Mom spent 9 years planning this. I should see what she built." If this story has touched your heart, leave a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss these powerful tales. The door opened behind them. Riley emerged, purple hair now streaked with blue, carrying orange juice. Breakfast is getting cold, and before you ask, no, I didn't cook, I know my limitations. James followed, no longer looking haunted. He'd turned state's evidence 3 months ago, testifying against every corrupt official he'd worked with. The prison sentence would be light. Witness protection, new identity, a chance to rebuild. But first he'd asked to say goodbye to Lola properly. I'm heading out tomorrow, he said quietly, sitting across from her. New name? New life. New chance, Lola finished. Mom would like that. She believed in second chances. She believed in you. James's eyes glistened. Every day I knew her, every conversation we had. You were the center of it all, her North Star, her reason for everything. I know. Lola did know now. Therapy had helped her understand that her mother's lies were love in disguise, that every secret was a shield, that Sarah Chan's greatest act of courage wasn't surviving. It was letting go. Victoria was the last to arrive, carrying a cake box. House arrest had aged her, but softened her too. The Ice Queen had thawed into something almost human. Happy 11-month anniversary of not dying, she announced, setting the cake on the table. I brought chocolate, with extra frosting, the way Sarah used to make it. Lola stared at her aunt. This woman who'd tried to kill her, then helped save her. Family was complicated. Family was messy. But family was also this, showing up with cake, even when you weren't forgiven yet. Maybe especially then. Thank you, Lola said simply. They ate breakfast together on the balcony as Seoul woke beneath them. A found family forged in fire and blood, and Sarah Chan's impossible love. They laughed. They remembered. They planned for futures that no longer felt stolen. And when they finished eating, Lola pulled out something she'd been working on for months. A book. It's Mom's story, she explained, handing it to Kwan. Everything that happened, everything she did. I wrote it all down so people would know. She wasn't just the ghost of Seoul. She was Sarah. She was brave and flawed and human and mine. Kwan's hands trembled as he opened to the first page. For my mother, who taught me that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about fighting. It's about sacrifice so profound it looks like betrayal until you're old enough to understand. This is her story. This is our story. This is what happens when a woman decides her daughter's future matters more than her own life. It's beautiful, Kwan whispered. It's true. Lola looked at each of them, her father who'd chosen her aunt who was learning to love her, the detective who'd betrayed everyone to protect her, the enforcer who'd become her fiercest protector. And I wanted to end it the way Mom would have wanted, not with her death, but with what came after. What came after? Riley asked gently. Lola smiled, real and bright and full of the hope Sarah had died to preserve. Us. We came after. And we're pretty amazing. 1 year later, Lola stood at her mother's grave, flowers in hand. White lilies. Always white lilies. The headstone was simple. Sarah Chan. Assassin. Nurse. Mother. She loved fiercely and saved the world quietly. Hey, Mom. Lola knelt, arranging the flowers carefully. I'm 12 now. Started middle school. Made the honor roll. Dad says you'd be proud. But honestly, you'd probably say I could do better. She laughed, the sound wet with tears that no longer scared her. The center's doing great. We helped 300 people last month get clean, get jobs, get second chances like you wanted. Riley runs it now. She's really good at it. Scary, but good. Lola traced her mother's name on the stone. Aunt Victoria got released from house arrest. She's trying. We have dinner once a month. It's awkward, but we're working on it. You'd probably lecture me about forgiveness, so I'm trying that too. The wind picked up, carrying cherry blossoms across the cemetery like snow. I miss you every day. Every single day. But I'm okay now. Better than okay. I'm happy. Lola's voice strengthened. You gave me that. You gave me everything, and I promise, I'm not wasting it. I'm living, really living, the way you wanted me to. She stood, wiping her eyes, and found Kwan waiting by the cemetery gate. Patient, present, permanent. Her father, not by blood alone, but by choice, by sacrifice, by showing up every single day and choosing her again. Ready? He called. Lola took one last look at her mother's grave. Yeah, I'm ready. They walked out together, hand in hand, into Seoul's bright afternoon. Behind them, the past. Ahead of them, a future Sarah Chan had built with her life. And somewhere, Lola liked to think, her mother was watching, smiling, finally at peace, because her daughter wasn't just surviving. Thank you for joining me on Lola's journey. If this story moved you, touched you, or made you believe in the power of a mother's love, please hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. I read every single one. Remember, family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up, who fight for you, who love you even when, especially when, it's hard. Until the next story, keep believing in second chances. Keep fighting for what matters. And keep loving fiercely.